Results are in this morning for midterm races across Tennessee. WBI, our 10 News anchor Heather Wallaga is live in Nashville at the State Capitol building with more on the winners. Good morning from Knoxville, Miss Heather.
Abby, good morning to you. Tennesseans voted red this election with the two major statewide races going to the GOP. Republican Marsha Blackburn beat out Democrat Phil Bredesen to become the first female senator to represent Tennessee. The race became the most expensive in state history, and it got big national attention because many thought that seat was vulnerable after Senator Corker announced his retirement late last year. Tennessee also elected a new governor last night. Republican Bill Lee will take over for Governor Haslam as he reaches his term limit. Lee beat Democrat Carl Dean by a wide margin last night, and we are going to hear from the winners about their plans for the state and what's next for Tennessee coming up a little bit later in the show. Abby?
All right, thank you, Heather. And as she just said, leadership in Tennessee going to look very different soon as the winners of last night's midterm election prepare to take office. Here to break down the key races is Lincoln Memorial Law Professor and Associate Dean for Academic Affairs Matthew Lyon. Good morning.
Hi, Abby.
Hi, it's good to see you.
It's great to be here.
You've been hanging out with us this
That's
morning,
right.
which has been nice.
Yeah.
Okay, for starters, the Marsha Blackburn Phil Bredesen race was closer or further apart than you had expected?
It's a little bit larger margin than we expected. She was favored to win for sure. It was a very close race, and with the Kavanaugh hearings kind of solidified the partisan nature of the race, and I think a lot of Republican voters came home to the Blackburn, and she's been ahead ever since then, but then ended up winning by about 10 or 11 points.
This was expected, as you said, so no surprises there. Really no surprises in races across the state. But nationally, that's a different story. Were there more surprises, did you think?
A few here and there. We saw a lot of success with Democrats in particularly suburban districts, districts that Hillary Clinton won in 2016. Those were harder to translate in statewide races in states that President Trump won. So places like Texas, where it was a close race, but you saw Beto O'Rourke, the Democratic candidate, losing statewide, but they had a lot of success in some of those suburban districts, which leads now to Democratic control of the House of Representatives.
Exactly, and the Senate stayed Republican majority, so that did not change.
That's right.
Let's talk about the race for governor. Bill Lee and Carl Dean. Bill Lee won pretty handily over Carl Dean. Not a surprise there either.
No, I think this is the first time in many decades where you have a Republican succeeding a Republican as governor, so that's historic as well. But Bill Lee was sort of a middle-of-the-road Republican candidate, very personable, and I think appealed to a lot of Tennesseans. Interestingly, here in Knoxville, we had some interesting races for the State House. So some close races, Gloria Johnson going back to the State House, and a very close race between Martin Daniel and Greg McKay. So.
Well, and the fact that the race that Gloria Johnson won, that those two opponents have run against each other 3 times.
That's right. Yeah.
Which, wow.
I know.
And have come close every time.
Yes. Yes.
Boy, it was an exciting day. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to you again over on Fox 43 coming up in just a bit.
Looking forward to it.
Stay tuned. Go get another cup of coffee.